Screencast 14, Programmatically Setting Ranges on an AX Query. In the last screencast, I created a report that went against the cust table SRS query, but instead of just using a dataset bound to the query directly, I created a data method called getCustTableSRS, and then I programmatically ran the query, right? Using this class and the static method, AXQuery.executeQuery. Now I mentioned in the previous screencast that you can actually set ranges on the queries programmatically, and now I'm going to show you how to do that. First, let's create just a new data method. Oops, I created a data set accidentally, but I'll leave that alone. I'll go back to the data methods, add a new data method, open it up, refactor, rename, and I'll call this getCustTableSRS with range. Okay. Now, I'll remove that, change the return type to system.data.data table, and I'll just copy and paste the code here. Let's get it working first. Let's build this, and you'll see it gave me a complaint because that data set hasn't been bound. This data set, I'll call this cust3, and I'll bind it to a business logic, and I'll select get cust table SRS with range, and I'm going to just preview it now just to make sure everything's working by dragging it here. Okay, this is auto design 4, and I'll set the properties for the layout template and the style template so that it looks nice. And let's see now. Okay, so there are 2 pages, and as you can see, we're getting all the customer group IDs. And what we're going to do is set a range just so we can get the ones that are in the group, let's say 20 or 30. Okay, how do we do that? Let's go to that data method. And when you look at execute query, let me just go ahead and click left here and then right. You actually see there's an overload. There are 2 of them. One just takes a string, and the other one takes a string and then a dictionary. So we're going to make use of that dictionary. So we'll call this one ranges equals new dictionary string to object, and I'll use the simplified syntax for creating these. And now if we go here, before I if we go back to the report, I just want to show you that the parameter is called cust group, right? And when you looked at the preview, it said cust group. Let me remove this. I want to show you the parameter because this is a source of confusion for people. Let's go ahead and run the report. It says cust group. So, of course, we are thinking, let's go here and say cust group. Let's set that to 10, right? Okay, so I'll build it, nothing wrong. Let's go to the report. And actually, let me close this and make sure I'm looking at the right report. Yep. Now we're still seeing the numbers there, right? And why is that? Because we have forgotten to set the range, which is, you just add it like that. We use the overload. And now when we build, and we have to build it because I changed code, right? Wow, what do you see? You see an error. Now let me read it out to you. Data method, get cust table SRS with range, invocation failed. Fix the data method so that it returns a valid system.data table before binding to it. Original error message, range cust group does not exist. Well, that's a bit unusual, right? Because the parameter says cust group. And if we look here in the AOT, under the cust table SRS, you'll see it says cust group. So in the ranges node, what's the problem? And the issue is very simple. You need to fully qualify the name. So you really want to say the table name dot the field name. right? So it should be custtable.custgroup. It's a very common thing people forget. So it's custtable dot custgroup. Let's build it again and preview. And you can see, regardless of what the parameter says, you can see only the customers with cust group 10 are returned. You can go back here and say 90. You'll see a much smaller set of records. I think just one. Preview it again. Okay, now you see it's 90. Doesn't even matter what the parameter is. We're programmatically filtering it using the ranges. And this is, in fact, exactly how the framework handles those special parameters. It just calls the execute query with the range dictionary setup. Okay, so it's a very powerful technique because it lets you, first it lets you actually understand what the SSRS framework we added is doing, and second, it gives you more programmatic control over the data you're getting from AX. So some of the things you can do here are, for example, you could modify, again, the content that AX is returning to you, or you can filter it to some certain set of nodes programmatically. It's a very useful technique. And later on, maybe I'll show you how to create your own parameter and bind to it. Okay, so that's it for this screencast.